Okay. Okay, recording in progress. And okay. Well, hello everybody. Today we have here Timothy Reiniger. He's a nationally recognized legal expert in electronic and online notarization. Tim also serves as digital counsel for eNotary Law LLC, where he advises on all matters relating to notarial law as well as both electronic and online notary legislation. So, Tim, recently you participated in the Montana Notary Conference, which it was amazing. I was there too. And some of the notaries there, they still have a few questions about remote online notarization because it's new, it's a new law. So they're still very new at it. And I don't know if you want to mention a little bit, the difference between remote online notarization and remote notarization, because just the word remote sometimes that confuses people.
Well, thank you, Jeannie. Pleasure to be here, and congratulations on your very successful efforts in creating and launching the Cyber Notary Virtual Training Academy. Excellent organization, and there's a huge need in the country for what you were doing in this type of training. And I love the term cyber notary. That was first used by the American Bar Association back in the late 1990s, I believe. And it was way ahead of its time and kind of forgotten, but now you're single-handedly reviving it. So this is great. I'm happy to be here. And yes, it was delightful to see you, Jeannie, in Montana last week. It was a terrific conference. I was really honored to be invited to attend and participate. And my particular topic was the new law in Montana. New, yes, I mean, it was passed in 2019, but Montana holds a very special place in the history progress of online notarization in the United States. So, Jeannie, you're in Virginia, the first state to enact it back in 2011.
Yes.
But several years went by after that with other states questioning what Virginia was doing. It was very controversial until Montana in 2015 became the second state. That was, we knew in Virginia from the beginning that the key would be to get another to enact.
Mm-hmm.
So that was Montana. And another interesting aspect of Montana is that it has been a uniform law state. So it was one of the, at the time, maybe 12 or so states that had enacted the uniform law on notarial acts. But there was no model for adding online notarization authorization. And the Virginia law had been based more on the National Notary Association's Model Notary Act provisions for electronic notarization. So it wasn't an easy model to copy. And so actually, Lori Ham in the Secretary of State's office did reach out to me and asked for help in adapting their law. And so I helped with that. And, with all these laws, you have to do what's politically possible, what will get enough votes to pass. And so Montana law at the time could only pass if we were limited in very special ways. Like I think it was limited to just acknowledgments, it was limited to just Montana residents. It wasn't nearly as broad, broad as the Virginia law. But it served their needs. And then in the meantime, the Uniform Law Commission started to take interest in revising its uniform law, in which it did. And then in like 2018 or so, they came up with a version. So Montana, after that, decided to go back and update its law, bring it into sync with the many other states that were acting the online notary law and using the Uniform Law Commission model. So anyway, that's the background for the Montana has still been doing things, making tweaks and changes that makes it cutting edge. So it's Montana in many ways has been perhaps the most influential in this whole process, very quietly. But so they have clarified a lot of points, and they've added some really interesting material acts. I don't know if we'll have time to get into it, but the certificate of fact for all kinds of things, someone's date of death, the birth, whether someone's still alive, actually, that's needed for some foreign countries, certification of facts of certain events, very broad. And so that's great. But to your first point, one of the things that Montana did was to put in definitions of remote notarization and remote online notarization.
Yes.
So this is one of the ways they've diverged from the Uniform Law Commission, which did not do that. And Montana felt that it would be better for the notaries and the citizens to have separation. So basically, remote online notarization, in simple terms, involves the electronic document as the product, an electronically notarized document, whereas what they are calling remote notarization, the product is a tangible document still. It's that it has been, the signer has appeared before the notary using the audio-video process, as well as taking advantage of the online means of authenticating the signer.
Okay.
So it combines the strengths of RON identity proofing with the flexibility of still producing tangible wet signed documents, especially where there are so many relying parties. It's still, for example, the area of estate planning and probate documents.
Okay, so in other words, the remote notarization involves tangible documents, while remote online notarization is all done digitally.
Right. Yep. And the documents are electronically signed by the signers and the notary.
The remote online notarization.
That's correct. Yep.
And then the remote notarization, the signer sign the document with a wet signature and then send it to the notary.
Right. There's actually a little bit more flexibility in that. There could be wet signed, scanned, and emailed to the notary, who will then print it out and wet sign. So,
okay.
But I think everyone, it's good to realize, in my mind, Montana was at the forefront of pushing for this type of huge flexibility in leveraging the technology to serve all needs, whether they need relying on a paper tangible document or electronic. So the Virginia laws, when that was done, we envisioned that when using the online processes, we only want electronic documents. So that didn't even occur to anybody that you'd want to be using tangible documents. And Montana said, oh no, we need that from the use case. And people, like many, kind of made fun of Virginia at first. There are many who have made fun of Montana after 2015. They thought that was ridiculous to still have tangible documents. But the whole country now does it. So just about, yeah.
Okay, great.
It's great.
Yes,
so,
that's wonderful. And then, I was at this conference. Some of the Montana notaries asked me about the jurisdictional point of remote online notarization. They were confused if they could do a remote online notarization if they were physically located either in Wyoming or North Dakota, or they have to be in Montana physically when they are doing remote online notarization. Because as traditional notaries, sometimes they can do that. They can go to these other two states and get documents notarized they're with under the Montana law, but as remote online notaries, can they do the same or not?
Yeah, a topic of great confusion. I get these questions every day from lawyers and notaries, and it'll be job security for me, I think, for quite a while. But but I think the way the members, students can think about this, the way to simplify it is to think about the legal concept of jurisdiction has three aspects.
Mm-hmm.
Your personal jurisdiction as a notary, your territorial jurisdiction, and your subject matter jurisdiction. So that's try not to get into too much legalese in this discussion, but that's the closest I'll come. But I think it's for everyone to keep in mind. Well, first, and we use the word jurisdiction because, of course, notaries, you all are public officers. So you, as public officers, you have jurisdictionally in different ways. So the first one, personal jurisdiction, that's what we now know as personal appearance. That's the way for a signer to invoke your authority, a public officer. And in this case, with Ron, it can be done using communication technology or remotely. Before that, or still, it can be invoked through physical, in-person means, traditional means. So, and when people are talking about the use of audio video, the answer is, that's now authorized way to invoke your authority. So it's personal jurisdiction. Now, territorial jurisdiction gets to your powers, authorization under a set of laws of your particular state. They all require that you perform your notarial acts within your jurisdictional boundaries of the state, physical boundaries, like a police officer. I mean, the police officers in California can't just, when they're in Maine, rounding people and so forth, out of their jurisdiction.
So in other words, the notary needs to be within Montana.
Yes, but you alluded to an issue that is now coming up. There are many states that have arrangements of what they call reciprocity with their neighbors, their neighboring states, for very practical reasons. And Montana has that with North Dakota and Wyoming. Is that resident of Wyoming who may be doing works in Montana can qualify to be a commissioned notary in Montana, even though that person resides in Wyoming. Samples like that. That's a big situation with New Jersey and New York. A lot of the individuals that work in New York will actually have dual notary commissions as a resident of New Jersey and as an employee place of work in New York. Same with Virginia, DC, and lots of bordering state situations. But when they're performing the notarial acts, it's always under those of where they are physically.
So for remote online notaries in Montana, do they need to be physically located within Montana for them to be able to perform this run?
Yes.
Okay, that's what they needed to know, because like I said, traditional, they can go to another state and follow this Montana laws, but when it comes to run, they do need to be physically located in Montana.
Correct.
Oh, okay. That's a good clarification.
Another example I was giving is to work in New York. That New Jersey resident cannot be performing notarial acts in New York City using the New Jersey commission, while they're physically in New York. So a similar situation. So you're right. Jeannie, to stress this point. Everyone performing runs has to do it while they're physically in their state or commission.
Okay, that's great to know. I'm sure they're gonna be saying, "Oh, wow, okay, it's a good thing to know," because that question came up a lot. And now another question that came a lot was the venue. So some of the Montana notaries, sometimes they travel within the state, and because as the other states, when we perform remote online notaries, the signer can be anywhere in the world, but the notary needs to be within the jurisdiction that applies, by law. So the venue, which is the city, the state. So in that particular certificate, the notaries, they want to make sure what is it that they put there. They put there where the signer is, or where the actual notary is located at the time of notarization.
So the venue will always be where the notary is.
Okay.
Time of the Notarial Act. It's a great meaning, because, as I say, I'm hearing now from lawyers all over the place, and it's lots of confusion and discussion. So if you're in Helena or Billings, that'll be your venue. The signer could be in California or Europe. That doesn't matter. It's the venue, and then the judges for the. Getting back to that discussion I had about what jurisdiction, they got to look to that venue as to what law applies. So it's very important.
Yes, and the reason why it came up a lot was because under seal, they have to write down residing at. So when the notary apply for commission, let's see, if they live in Helena, it's going to say Helena. But if they are performing the remote online notarization from another county or city, so it is that city that goes in the certificate, not where they are residing at.
That's correct.
Right? Oh,
yes. Yep.
Okay, so that's good to know. And another that came up a lot during the conference was the notary digital signature. Some platforms, they just create the notary signature, but apparently, according Montana law, and then here you're gonna let us know if that is how it works, the notary needs to take a picture of the signature, of the original signature, and submit that picture to the platform, and the platform needs to be able to integrate that signature within the system. So when the notary signs a certificate, that's how the signature is going to look. So is that how it works, or is that according to law?
Yes, in the statute and in the Secretary's rules were issued, that Montana is one of two states that takes this approach, the other being North Carolina, in which the notary, when performing electronic notarizations, will sign with a digitized image of the holographic signature that matches their handwritten signature that file Secretary of State with their formal commissioning application documents. And the same with the seal image. So Montana, like North Carolina, requires the notary to use the image of the seal that appears the same as the physical seal that's used on paper documents. And the reason they did this was for ease of authenticating the notary. So in those cases where someone requires the secretary to vouch for, substantiate, whether there's a commissioned notary, the secretaries, they get thousands of documents. They need to be able to have a way to do that. And so Montana, North Carolina figured the easiest way is to be able to compare the signature seal on file. Most of all the other states, say, with especially online notarization, electronic, have gone to a more technology secure route of requiring notaries to use digital signatures, public key technology, PKI, which is a little bit more complicated but fancier, renders the documents tamper evident, and it's basically a signing credential that identifies the notary. It's under the notary's control. Say that Montana doesn't have security built. What they've done in their approach is to require the technology service provider to provide the means of rendering the documents tamper evident to secure the integrity of the documents. Yep. So for now, it's an interesting approach by Montana.
It is. So now one more thing today before we leave, because we're running out of time. The journal, how they are very much, specific about the journal. Do remote online notaries in Montana, do they need to fill out a tangible and an electronic journal when they perform the remote online notarizations, or one of those two will suffice? As long as it's chronological.
Well, as we learned at the conference, the Montana has taken the most flexible approach to this. It's a great question, because this has caused a lot of hand-wringing and anxiety in many other states, with notaries being required to keep just one journal at a time, having to keep an journal for electronic access. As Montana, looking at their statutes and rules, notary can choose whether to use one or both, and it's their needs and abilities. So I think it's great.
Okay, yes, it's true, because you never know what may happen to the information in an electronic means. At least they have a tangible proof of it.
That said, what I really like Montana has done is, on top of that flexibility, they get into much more detail about what notaries should put in the journal. They want an entry as to where, if there's an audio video recording, where is the recording kept, stored? Each Online Notarial Act, who is the technology provider? So it's very clear. And the other thing is, they say to include notes about the session, such as, for example, where there are foreign language documents that were being done, was there a signature by, and then the name about the witnesses and all that. Montana takes the view that this journal is the very best evidence to resolve disputes, and so it's a really wonderful contribution by Montana.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and with that, we have reached to our last minute here. So appreciate Tim for being here with CNVTA today. Really, this is wonderful, because I'm sure the Montana notaries and other notaries from other states will benefit from it. And make sure that I'm going to call you back for the Virginia law.
Oh, yes, I was going to ask about that.
Yes,
can't wait to talk about Virginia.
Yes, definitely. That's something that's coming up, and I would love to have that here as well. Thank you so much, and I don't know, see you soon, maybe in another conference.
Yes, Jeannie, it was great to see you in Montana, and I'm delightful today.
Okay, well, you have a wonderful day.
Thanks, you too.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Hello, I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Timothy Reiniger, who was here clarifying points of interest in regards to Montana Remote Online Notarization. Also, if you are a Montana notary, either renewing or applying for a Remote Online Notarization certification, go to www.cnvta.club, click on Montana, and register for the course. That is the course that will provide to you at the end, once you have passed your 2 hours and the run exam. It will give you access to your certificate, the certificate that you will need to submit to the Secretary of State when you are applying for your RON certification. Thank you so much, and we are here to help you as much as we can, to equip you, to give you tools so you can be a great remote online notary.